Hi, everyone. I'm Brad Free with David Aragona, and this is the preview segment of Derby Watch with a new feature at the end of the segment that we hope that you enjoy. David, let's first talk about the most significant stakes race this weekend, not only in terms of the Kentucky Derby, but it's also a terrific betting race with 14 entered in the Grade 2 Risen Star.
Yes, this one at Fairgrounds where the 3-year-olds will be tested over the 9 furlong distances. They're a little bit more aggressive with the distance increases at the Fairgrounds than some other circuits. And field of 14 signed on. And we've got 2 Derby Watch members running in this race, those being the morning line favorite Victory Formation, as well as last year's Kentucky Jockey Club runner-up Curly Jack. But Brad, there are plenty of other 3-year-olds in this race with potential, some shippers from other circuits, horses that have run in prior preps at the Fairgrounds. So definitely a race that holds a lot of intrigue and could cause a shakeup in the Derby Watch next week.
Yeah, this is really a good race. Beyond Victory Formation and Curly Jack, there are a number of horses. We're going to talk about some of them. This is also the first 50 points to the winner Derby qualifying race. So whoever wins the Risen Star is virtually guaranteed a spot in the Kentucky Derby. And the Risen Star in recent years has turned out to be a relatively significant race. Epicenter won this race last year. In 2019, War of Will won it. He ended up winning the Preakness and a Grade 1 on grass. And in 2016, Gunrunner won the Risen Star as well. So it's a significant race. We're only still in February, but this race can kind of foretell some future fame. So let's talk a little bit about the morning line favorite, David. He's Victory Formation. He's drawn way out in post 13. Personally, I really don't think that the outside draw in this situation is much of a detriment. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only detriment could be that there is some other speed signed on in this race, particularly drawn down towards the inside, some horses that might be bigger prices that could try to get in front of him in the early stages. And the thing about Victory Formation is he's been impressive winning all 3 of his starts, but he really has gotten perfect trips in all of those races. So this might be the first time that he has to overcome some adversity, but he has definitely shown talent.
Yeah, he's drawing outside. I really see his main pace rival as being the California shipper number 5, Harlowcap. I don't really see that there's a ton of speed in this field. There's a pretty good long run to the first turn. And I think that for Victory Formation, I believe that this race could unfold perfectly for him, and it's going to give him a chance and jockey Flavian Pratt the opportunity to maybe sit second if Harlowcap does in fact go to the lead. Let's take a look at Victory Formation's most recent start. It was kind of a landslide. He was the odds-on favorite in the Smarty Jones, and he did what he had to do, David.
Yeah, and we should note there are actually 2 Brad Cox trainees coming out of this race that are entered in the Risen Star. Runner-up Angel of Empire also coming back in this race. Brad Cox actually has 3 entrants in the Risen Star, those 2 along with Tappett's Conquest, who was recently second in an allowance race at Fairgrounds. Clearly, Victory Formation was better than Angel of Empire on that day, and we'll just have to see how these horses handle the stretch out in distance.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, Brad Cox with 5 members of the Derby Watch in the top 20. The horse that's going to give him a little bit of a tussle early is shipping in from California. And this is a kind of a significant trainer switch because maybe this is the first domino to fall. A former Bob Baffert trainee by the name of Harlowcap, now trained by Steve Asmussen for the Risen Star. His name is Harlowcap. And last time out, let's roll the tape of his maiden win last time out. And you know what? I don't know what was behind him. Yellow Brick, the runner-up, came back and ran second again. But this is an improving son of Justify. And I think we're just now seeing this colt emerge. What do you think?
Yeah, we're watching his maiden victory last time out. I was actually really impressed with his narrow loss 2 back when he had some real trouble into the first turn and actually overcame it to nearly win that race. So this is a horse that's gotten a good education in his first few starts. And like you said, he's making that trainer switch from Bob Baffert to Steve Asmussen. Obviously, these horses have to switch out of the Bob Baffert barn to accrue points on the Kentucky Derby trail. I'm not sure that this is really a clue as to where the other Baffert runners are going to ultimately go. I believe these owners Contenders have other horses with Steve Asmussen, so that's why they've decided to make this move. But feels like he kept pretty good company out in California. In our recap video, we talked about that Skinner maiden race that got a high 95 buyer last week, and actually the horses that finished right behind Harlowcap came back to finish, I believe, second and third in that race, improving their buyer speed figure. So that could bode well for the form lines coming out of California as he ships in.
Each start by Harlowcap is better than the one before. You look at his form, you go, he's just a maiden winner. But when Baffert puts a horse out on the road, and in my mind, he's still a Baffert trainee. I know he's running for Asmussen, but when Baffert ships a horse, he ships a horse in top form. And I asked him last weekend, why are you going to send this horse to Fairgrounds? He said, because he's doing really well. So I think it's an interesting spot placement for Harlowcap. John Velasquez is named aboard, and this guy he has speed, he has post 5, and I think he's going to make his presence felt from the beginning of the race to as far as he goes. If he's a little bit of a price, I might have to put a couple dollars on him. But David, there's a couple of horses in this race that I know you are interested in, including Tappett's Conquest, and also the other one is named Two Phils. Tell us why you like these two colts, or why you're fascinated by their entrance in this race.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the development of Tappett's Conquest. He's a horse that showed some promise last year as a 2-year-old. Probably should have won that N1X allowance race on the Lecomte undercard last month, when he just kind of got stuck inside throughout behind a slow pace, was beaten by Determinedly, who's also in here. But it seemed to me like Tappett's Conquest ran the better race that day. He's going to have to get faster if he is going to be competitive in this Risen Star, but he's definitely one that should appreciate added ground. And as for Two Phils, he's a horse that was second to Brad Cox's Instant Coffee in the Lecomte, but I thought he ran pretty well in that race, made the first move into what turned out to be a pretty quick pace, and just got a little bit tired at the end. But I thought he gamely tried to battle back in the late stages, and he feels like one that could fly under the radar in this race. So this Risen Star with a 14-horse field is definitely the kind of race where you can search for a little bit of value, and Two Phils might offer that.
We should also mention Curly Jack. He is on the top 20 Derby watch list, making his first start as a 3-year-old. He was just a notch below the elite 2-year-olds last year. He started 6 times. He finished 5th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, came back and finished 2nd to Instant Coffee in the Kentucky Jockey Club. This is a colt that's making his first start as a 3-year-old. Sometimes all it takes is a couple months off, and these high-class 2-year-olds, and I count Curly Jack as high class, come back as 3-year-olds, and they really blossom. So we're going to find out more about Curly Jack. We're also going to find out if Victory Formation can take the heat, if Tappett's Conquest can overcome some trouble that he had last time, and Two Phils. A very interesting edition of the Risen Star. 50 points to the winner. Okay, David and I promised that we had a new feature this week, and it's called the On the Bubble feature. And this is a list of horses that David and I have discussed, didn't quite make the list, but we're monitoring their subsequent performances, including a filly who got all kinds of support in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager. David, what about Hoosier Filly running on Saturday in the Rachel Alexandra at Fairgrounds?
Yeah, it feels like some fans watching this might be wondering why we haven't put her in our top 20 yet, just given the support that she seems to have out there. But she's pretty light on speed figures. I believe her best buyer, which she earned in the Goldenrod, is an 81. And I know we are both disciples of speed figures, and she just hasn't done quite enough in our minds to be considered a legitimate Kentucky Derby candidate at this point in time. I do understand that Tom Amoss is very high on her, and she has been visually impressive in all 3 of her victories. But I feel like we're going to learn a lot more about her when she runs on that Risen Star undercard in the Rachel Alexandra on Saturday.
She'll be the biggest underlay of the day, I think. One day later at Oakland Park, February 19th, a comebacker by the name of Disarm. He's a gun runner, colt, trained by Steve Asmussen. I expect that he'll be one of the favorites. He's in race number 8 on Sunday at Oakland Park. And David, I was fascinated to go back on Daily Racing Form's Formulator program and take a look at the maiden victory by Disarm. It was his second career start in August at Saratoga, and looking at the horses that finished behind him by a long ways. The runner-up, Arthur's Ride. He recently won a maiden race at Gulfstream Park with an 89 buyer speed figure. The third place finisher, Krupe. He's still a maiden, but he earned an 87 buyer recently. The 5th place finisher, Rocket Can, He won the Grade 3 Holy Bull. Wadsworth, back-to-back wins at Turfway Park. He's being pointed to a Derby qualifying points race there. Point proven. He was a maiden special weight winner in fall. And even Alzabal, who finished way up the track, he finished 8th. He came back with a one other than win and under 85 Beyer speed figure. I guess what I'm saying is the maiden race that Disarm won at Saratoga was not your ordinary maiden race. Can he win first start back going a mile?
Yeah, it seems like Steve Asmussen has found a pretty good spot for him to start his comeback. And I know this was a horse that they were very much looking forward to stretching out off that maiden victory, which I do remember very well. It seemed impressive at the time, and it's certainly proven, as you articulated, to be a strong race in retrospect. And at the time, I think they were talking about running Disarm in the Iroquois because they did want to stretch him out immediately. That obviously didn't pan out. He went to the sidelines, but reportedly he's been working well for the comeback, so we'll see what he does on Sunday at Oaklawn Park.
Go Rocket Ride, based at Santa Anita. He's only started once. It was a decisive maiden sprint win. He's headed for the San Felipe Stakes on March 4th. He'll be running against Los Alamitos Futurity winner Practical Move, along with horses currently trained by Bob Baffert. Hard to Figure finished second to the since sidelined Newgate. David, we talked about this colt a couple weeks ago. He's still on the bubble. I think we're waiting to see if he can replicate that 100 Beyer speed figure.
Yeah, that Robert B. Lewis was just a difficult race to assess, with it being just full of Bob Baffert horses, and obviously the winner has since been sidelined. So we considered putting Hard to Figure on the list this week, just given that speed figure power. But that performance was a bit of a surprise, so we're looking for some confirmation in his next start.
Slip Mahoney won a highly rated maiden race last time out. We have him penciled in as a potential starter March 4th in the Gotham, and that's just an estimate that has not been confirmed by any of his connections. But David, you're familiar with Slip Mahoney, and I think you kind of like him. He's the son of Arrogate. He's supposed to continue to progress as his 3-year-old season unfolds.
Yeah, he's another horse that has been flattered by form lines. He was in a photo finish with Tappet Trice 2 back at Aqueduct, and that horse, of course, came back with that big allowance victory at Gulfstream in his next start. And it'll be interesting to see how Krupe does, the maiden running in the Risen Star on Saturday, because Slip Mahoney just nosed him out when he broke his maiden most recently at Aqueduct. So got some nice speed figures, big pedigree behind this horse by Arrogate out of the Grade 1 winning Routing Dam Got Lucky. So definitely a horse that could improve with added distance, but they are likely to try that 1-turn mile Gotham next time.
Kings Barnes, he won an allowance race last weekend at Tampa Bay Downs. He won by more than 7 lengths with an 85 Beyer speed figure. We have March 11th down. I would imagine that he will be at least under consideration for the Tampa Bay Derby. And considering how slowly run the Sam Davis was at Tampa Bay last weekend, I would have to believe that Kings Barnes would kind of fit in the mix if he does show up in the Tampa Bay Derby. David, do you agree or no?
Oh, totally. I think he got an 85 Beyer for that recent allowance victory, so that would have made him pretty tough if he had run the Sam F. Davis one day earlier. He's just a hard horse to know what to make of quite yet, because unlike some other allowance winners that we have put on the list, he hasn't really faced anything of quality yet. Was visually impressive last Sunday at Tampa Bay Downs, but he really needs to get a class test to know where he fits.
Yeah, he ran fast. We don't know what was behind him. And we should at least mention one other horse we left off the list. His name is Banishing. He runs in race 8 at Fairgrounds on Saturday in a one other than. Here at a 90 Beyer speed figure. He was a recent scratch at Fairgrounds, but he's come back to train well. He runs in race 8 at Fairgrounds. That is a wrap for On the Bubble. We have a lot to look forward to this weekend in the Risen Star Victory Formation. Curly Jack, maybe an upsetter. The Philly, Hoosier Philly, Disarm, and others on the bubble. Lots to look forward to this week and in the weeks ahead. That's a wrap for David Aragona. I'm Brad Frayne. We'll see you guys next week.